Hi, everyone. We're going to wait just 1 minute to see if more participants join us. I know it's been a busy month here in New Orleans, especially with Mardi Gras, and I know you all are studying, and we have tons of events going on campus and online. So hopefully, some of you will get some good information out of this during your lunch break. So I'll go ahead and get started and just introduce myself. I'm Susan Houssaye. I'm the Senior Career and Professional Development Advisor for SoPA. And my background is in recruiting. So I did recruiting for some big law firms in New York City where I was in-house hiring attorneys. So I was the person posting all the job descriptions, reading all the resumes and the cover letters, and also interviewing candidates and scheduling callback interviews. And so really working heavily with a lot of candidates who were interested in getting hired. I also was a recruiter here for a big tech company in New Orleans and was able to double the size of that company within 2 years. And it was eventually bought out by Shutterstock. So some fun stuff. Now I'm happy to be on the other side and advising you all on how to get your foot in the door and stand out when you're applying for jobs. So I am going to start with my resume. I'll share my resume with you all, and I just want to explain, it is very customary to still have a one-page resume. I also have a longer version of this that I save that has other experience on it that may not be relevant to what I'm doing right now, but that old experience could be valuable for a position that I'm applying for in the future. So I tell everyone to never delete anything off your resume, just build a really long one from the start and then just edit your one-page resume that you're going to be sharing when you're applying for jobs. Now, if you are applying for government positions, that is a different type of resume. I do have a federal resume template, so you can reach out to me to get something, to get that template. I am going to share in the chat. I just have a link to our Canvas's career services portal where there's more information, a link to my LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with all of you, my email address if you want to schedule an appointment. And then on our SoPA page, we have a great career development page with lots of information. So this is a resume that is very corporate. And after I share this resume with you all, I'll show you one that is a little bit more creative. So this, starting at the top, that I go by, my name is Susan, and I go by Susan. But if you are interviewing for a job and you have a nickname that you go by, you do want to include that on your resume. So the recruiter knows what to call you, the interviewers know what to call you, and this is not an official legal document. Legally, my last name is all one word with a capital D. So when I start at an organization, I let them know for payroll purposes and benefits, this is not how I want my last name put into the system. But this is the original spelling of it, so that is how I keep it. But most importantly is whatever you go by, you do want to have that on there so they know what to call you. If you don't want to include, I could just do Susie and that would be fine. This, nothing about this is official. It's just, what do you want to be called? And that's the most important thing. It gets confusing when you're a recruiter, a candidate comes in and you have been calling them Jennifer, and then they come in and they're like, "Hi, I'm Jenny." Well, then you have to go email everyone that's meeting with that candidate that day and say, by the way, she goes by Jenny. It creates a lot of confusion if you don't include what you'd like to be called. Moving down to the second line of your resume, it used to be standard that you would include your full address on your resume. Now we've taken it off. It's really for security reasons. No one needs to know where you live. No one needs to know your apartment number. So I put my email address first. It's going to be what uh, organizations are probably going to reach out to you first with. It's not going to, more than likely, not going to be a phone call first. Whatever email you use the most, put that here. If you use your Tulane email address the most, then put that on your resume. If you use Gmail the most, then put that on your resume. Do not put two emails on your resume. The recruiter will be like, where am I supposed to reach them? You want to make it as simple as possible and not put any questions into the recruiter's mind. Then you want to have your cell phone number, of course, where you're currently located. And I have a hyperlink that takes the recruiter to my LinkedIn page. If you have a portfolio, you can put that here as well with a hyperlink. It's really nice. It looks very clean. You want to send all of your documents out in a PDF. So this will be just an easy click for the recruiter to take them to your LinkedIn page where they can see a photo of you and maybe a little bit more information about you. So my experience is up at the top because I'm not currently in school. But if you are currently in school, I suggest that you move your education up to the top. So whatever you are actively doing, even if you are working full-time right now, it shows that you're in school, you're continuing your education while you're working. So I would recommend moving your education to the top if you're currently in school, even if you are working full-time. Going down your resume, I often see people put this in the wrong order. Your most current job should go at the top. So what you're currently doing, and then all the dates go down from there. Same with your education, community service. If you have dates for your community service, if you have a section that has certifications in it and certain dates for those certifications, it always starts with the most recent going backwards. So each section of your experience for each job should these should match up all of the formatting. So I use bold for the name of the organization that I worked for. The city and state is unbolded. I always spell out the state. I just think it looks nicer. It also adds a little bit more volume to the page. So another thing is if there are organizations that you work for that have an acronym, you want to spell that out, and you can put the acronym in parentheses, but you never want to assume that someone knows an organization's acronym. So spell everything out on resumes, because once again, you don't want the recruiter to have to take time to go Google that or look it up. You just want to provide them with everything on one page. So then I have my title, which is italicized all the way to the comma, and then the dates. And as a recruiter, I'm just very particular. And I was hiring for positions where we needed people to pay attention to detail. So you'll see every dash in between the dates of my employment is a short dash, and we all know a long dash. So this was space, short dash, space. So make sure all of these are also consistent. A recruiter looks at thousands of resumes a year. They do not read the entire resume, but they are looking for definitely consistency and something that is easy on the eyes. I opened a student's resume recently and they had their name at the top, but they were trying to be creative and they moved all of their contact information to the footer of the resume. And I was like, no, 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 you have to have it at the top. Like, recruiters are very busy, and that is something that I opened the resume. I'm like, I don't understand. Where's their, how do I get in touch with them? And as you can see, when you open it, the whole resume doesn't show on my page. So I had to scroll all the way down the bottom and then explain to them, let's just keep all your contact information up at the top so the recruiter can get in touch with you right away. Regarding cell phones, I had a candidate one time. I was applying, law students were applying to work at the firm where I was in New York. And the candidate, he put his cell phone number wrong. So I was trying to call him. I was getting someone else's voicemail. So make sure as many people as you know are who can help you are reading over your resume for you. And I don't love to go to look at my own resume because I find mistakes all the time, but that's what we all need to do, is to keep rereading it, making sure everything is perfect, because it's just this one page. And for all of our bullets, this is my current position. So all of these verbs are going to be in present tense. Everything that I've done in the past, all of these action verbs that start my bullets are going to be in past tense. So I do find that that is often a mistake. Sometimes people don't catch when they're updating their resume, is changing their previous positions to past tense. Under education, I think it's important to have different things that you were involved in while you're in school, any student organizations, sororities, fraternities. It can be something that can resonate with someone who is hiring you. I was in a sorority at the University of Alabama and made a connection with the candidate when I was hiring in New York. She was a CIO at University of Texas. I hired her. We're still great friends to this day, but it was just a little connection, something we could talk about. And it just ended up taking the interview in a more personal direction. Community service is great to have on here. Skills are great to have on here. Interest, I think, are fun. Not everyone puts their interest on their resumes. I like to have them if you're a marathon runner or you do crossword puzzles or whatever. It can definitely take you in a different direction in an interview. If someone likes hiking and I'm in an interview in New Orleans, they ask me, well, where do you go hiking? And then I can tell them about this really great hiking trail that I know about on the North Shore that's only an hour from here. So it can definitely lighten up your interview and make it a little more fun and engaging. And people want to hire people with similar interests so that they know that they have something in common with or can talk to. You've gotten the interview because of your experience. And now once you get in the door to attend the interview, they want to get to know you a little bit more. Of course, they want to know about your work experience, but also to know that if you are a good personality fit for the office. Every office has a different work culture. So They want to know that you're going to get along with everyone in the office, and maybe everyone in the office is a fan of podcasts. So you get the job. I'll show you a resume that a student did on InDesign. And I took her name off of here, but I thought it was really impressive and great looking. And there are templates that are on Canva and Etsy. And of course, you can create something on InDesign. This is going to be someone who's in our media and design program. Sometimes when I worked in IT, I definitely saw more colorful resumes than when I worked at a law firm. So there are different types of resumes for different industries. Now, are her bullets going to be similar? Yes. And am I going to look and make sure that all of her dashes are look the same and everything lines up and it's organized, and you can see her education, and all of it is very similar. It's just a different format for different types of industries, and some industries are more creative than others. So I thought that this was a fantastic example of someone who really took the time to do something that added a little bit of color, but it's subtle, and I just think it's great looking. So I had to share. So going back to my resume, there are ways, if you are struggling with writing your bullets for your job, there are simple ways to figure out how what to put here. I try to save the job description. If I get a job, I saved the job description for this job that I applied for at Tulane. And I looked at it when I was updating my resume because there were bullets on that job description saying what I would be doing at Tulane. So that helped me write my add on to my resume. And I met with the student on Friday who she said she did the same thing. She had kept every job description for every job she had gotten, and it really helped her write her resume. Also, if you forget, because oftentimes when you get the job, they take the job posting down. So you really do have to save it when you're applying for the job as opposed to when you get it. You can always go online and look for a job that you have, that you currently have. And it will, let's see, I'll show you. So if we're looking for, if I wanted to update my resume and I didn't have my resume, I can look for a career counselor position on Indeed.com and see if there is anything in this job description that that could help me write my resume. I can also go to ChatGPT and ask it, please create bullets for my resume for a senior career and professional development advisor position. And then it can give me some ideas. So the internet works wonders. That is way too many bullets. And of course, I would never copy these directly. I would just get ideas from this and maybe use some of the verbs and some of the thoughts that are in here. It's so helpful that we have this now. But you can always search online. I was helping my nephew. He worked at Raising Cane's and he couldn't remember what he did. And so I went on Raising Cane's website and he was a cashier. And we looked at Raising Cane's website. Of course, they were hiring a cashier at one of their locations. And boom, the job description came up. And I asked him, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And he said yes. And so I just copied it and put it into his resume. And it was that easy. So definitely utilize resources online to help you build some really solid bullets for your resume. Now we are going to talk about your cover letter. And I think that a lot of people are intimidated by cover letters, and some jobs do require a cover letter. So it's good to have a sample cover letter just saved. And I want to tell you, as a recruiter, we do not read the entire cover letter. Studies show that recruiters spend 5 to 7 seconds looking at cover letters. And I believe it. They are receiving so many applicants. So they want to see that you can string some sentences together, and that first paragraph is really important. If you notice the top, this header on my cover letter is the same as what was on my resume. So I like my resume header and my cover letter header to match. And I will tell you, as a recruiter, I would print out hundreds of resumes and go block out hours in a conference room to go through resumes. And I'd have to carry the resumes from the copy machine to the conference room. And if I drop some, it would be really helpful if I knew which went together, right? And as you're like separating them, you're getting them all organized. It's just nice when it looks clean and the materials match. For your cover letter, I don't want to see a 2-page cover letter. I don't want to see a really long cover letter because, like I just said, recruiters look at cover letters for 5 to 7 seconds. So this first paragraph is really important, and it's the basics. And when I save my cover letter online, I always highlight the first sentence because I know I need to change that sentence every time I'm applying for a different job. And I only change that first sentence normally. So I write, I would like to apply for the senior career and professional development advisor position at Tulane University. And that is the sentence that I change every time based on whatever position I am applying for. In that first paragraph, I want you to mention if you have any geographic ties to the area, or if a particular person has suggested you for this position. I am born and raised in New Orleans, so I certainly put I am a New Orleans native and I am committed to living here. So I put that in the first paragraph. I made it sound a little bit better than that, but something along those lines. You can also put a little bit about you if you want. I'm highly organized and have extreme attention to detail, or I have previous experience in career counseling. This should be a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph. And the second paragraph is where you sell yourself. You're highlighting your resume and who you currently are. So you are currently, I'm studying X, Y, and Z at Tulane University. While in school, I work full-time as an art director at this company. And then tell them in sentence format why they should hire you. What are the qualities that you bring to the table? What are your achievements? And if it doesn't relate to your most current job, then, but it relates to a job that you had 5 years ago, then bring that up. So before I worked at Tulane, I was the recruiting manager at a law firm here in New Orleans. But 5 years before that, I was a career advisor at LSU Law School. So I brought that back into the second paragraph and really highlighted what I did there and my experience working with the students and on their resumes and cover letters and networking and interview preparation, because that was most important for me to talk about when getting this job. So you don't want to, you don't need to completely tell them everything you've ever done on your resume because they have a copy of your resume. What you want to do in that second paragraph is sell yourself and what skills and experience do you have. You're getting a certification at Tulane, or you did a job 3 years ago that you really want to get back into, or your current job. This is what you need to highlight in that second paragraph. What ties you into what is the reason why they should hire you? The third paragraph, it's the easiest. It's just wrapping it up. It's just saying, thank you for your time and consideration. I hope to have the opportunity to interview for this position. That's it. So cover letters can seem intimidating, but you know yourself the best, so you're the best person to write it. And it is definitely a good thing to have just a sample one ready, because sometimes on Indeed or LinkedIn, they are asking you for a cover letter for when you apply. So it's good if you have the time over a break or over the holidays. And if you want to write one and send it to me, I can always edit it for you and give you feedback. But it's just good to have in your back pocket. A lot of companies now are not requiring them. But I think it's nice if you do attach one, if there is a spot where you are able to attach one. It's just something to think about. And while we didn't, it's not in the title of the discussion today, but I am going to touch on references, because sometimes people are confused. When do I give a company my references? And I think these 3 documents that we're talking about today are the most important to set you up for success to start applying for jobs. So once again, the header looks just like it did on my resume and my cover letter. I like consistency. You should have 3 references ready and only provide references when requested. I have seen some jobs that do request them when you're applying, so that's fine. So you will have this document prepared. Most organizations do not ask for references until they're about to give you the job. You've interviewed, you're waiting to hear back from them about an offer, and then they will ask you, will you provide us with your references? So when I was applying for this job, my current supervisor emailed me after I had been in 3 times for interviews and said, will you provide us with your references? So of course I had this document ready, emailed it to her in a PDF format. And as soon as she asked for my references, I texted my 3 references, of course, separately, and said, hi, Chris, I've applied for this position at Tulane University. I'm really excited about the possibility of getting it. I put your name down as a reference. Please be on the lookout for a phone call from Tulane University. 2 of my references did not live in New Orleans, so I told them, please be on the lookout for a phone call from a 504 number. they both really appreciated that. They said they never would have answered a phone call from a 504 number. And they all texted me after they had gotten the phone call and said, "Hey, I spoke with so and so at Tulane. I gave you a great recommendation." So then I knew that, within 24 hours, they'd all received a phone call and the references had been completed. Oftentimes, people think that a reference has to be someone who was a previous boss or supervisor or manager, and that's not the case. So you don't have to use a former boss. I have used former bosses. You can use a professor, you can use someone who was your equal, and you can even use someone who was below you at an organization. So at LSU Law School, the receptionist I was very close with, she took over my job after I left, and we still talk all the time till this day. And she's a great reference for me. She knows I'm a hard worker. She continued to call me when she had questions come up about her new position after I'd left, and we, still talk and see each other. So she's a great reference for me, but just because her position was below me, that doesn't mean anything. She was in the office with me every day. She knew my work style, she knew my work ethics. And you really want to use someone who is going to say great things about you. That's the most important thing, because as a recruiter, I would make the phone calls to ask people to speak on someone's behalf. And you can tell right away if I called and said, "Hi, I'm calling from Phelps Dunbar. I wanted to check and see so and so put your name down and said that they worked with you." And immediately the reference's tone of voice gives it away if this is a great candidate or not. They'll 99.9% of the time they would say, "Oh yeah, I worked with Jimmy. He's great. I wish him the best. You should definitely hire him." And tell me they would tell me about their work experience. So definitely use people who are going to say great things about you, because that's most important. And I'll tie this up with, so you have your resume, you have your cover letter, you have your references. So those are all fantastic. And now if you are interested in having a LinkedIn profile, I'm going to do another webinar on LinkedIn, and we can save that for another day. But I do want to touch on a few things. It is important, and it's nice. You all can connect with me. You can look at mine. I always look at other people's LinkedIn to see what they're doing and how creative they are. And what you do want to have is all of your jobs on here match what is on your resume. So if a recruiter looks at your LinkedIn, but it's not matching your resume, that's going to bring up some red flags for them. Part of my job as a recruiter was to look for candidates' social media profiles. So definitely make sure your Facebook photos are hidden, your your Instagram, you have to request to be friends with someone. LinkedIn, you want it to be visible for recruiters to see. You want them to see if you have some certifications on here, where you went to school, if you're volunteering matches with your resume, if you have recommendations, they're going to do a quick glance at your LinkedIn. So just make sure your LinkedIn matches your resume. And this profile section is where the button that you're going to use the most to add things. And LinkedIn is constantly updating and adding sections. They definitely take great feedback from their users. And some of these sections are new. Patents, honors and awards, test scores, causes is a new one. So if you haven't looked at your LinkedIn profile in a while, I definitely recommend you go through just section by section and look at someone who you admire, someone in your industry, and see how their page is set up. We are hosting professional headshots next week on campus, so please sign up if you haven't done so already. Our awesome photographer, she took this photo of me last semester. I'll take another one next week. You can take as many photos as you want. You can come every semester. So please, I encourage you to sign up. Have a professional headshot. No one else is in the photo. It's not a vacation photo. And this LinkedIn banner is also important. It shows that you are attentive to it. I love that on Canva, you can create a design, and one of the options is a LinkedIn background photo, and it fits perfectly into that rectangular box. So you can use any of these templates. Some of them you do have to pay for. Many of them are free. So look on Canvas and see if you like something. The ones with the little crowns are pro, and those you have to pay for. But this one's free, and you could make your own banner. It's awesome, and it fits perfectly into the space where it can sometimes be hard to find something to fit in here. Additionally, another way to add a little bit of pop to your LinkedIn is to add symbols and also use a font changer. So in my about section, I used a font changer to bold a few things, and I used symbols. So this is coolsymbol.com, and I'll follow up with this after this presentation and send y'all links to all this. Cool symbols you can use. Sorry, there is no S on the end. It's cool symbol, even though there are thousands of symbols on here. There are symbols on here that you can copy and paste into your LinkedIn profile. Also, you can go up and do the font changer, which is where I bolded some of the text. LinkedIn's text is very basic. So this is where, if you want to get a little bit fancy, you can type your name in here, copy it, and paste it into LinkedIn. So that's fun and can add a little bit of color to your page. So look at what other people are following. I'm often reposting positions that are open. There is a great job section here on LinkedIn. I like their interview prep questions. On this left sidebar are all the typical interview questions. So I appreciate that LinkedIn provides that for us. And you can practice, you can create a video, you can share it with me. If you want to practice answering any of these questions, you can send it to me and I can send you feedback. So there are tons of great features on here. One last thing that I'll cover on is, in addition to having a resume, a cover letter, references, LinkedIn, it's not required. Some people don't want to be on social media, and that's okay. But if you are doing a portfolio of sorts where you want to highlight your work, I recommend using Wix, or I used landingsite.ai, and I created this website for myself within, I would say, an hour. And I'm not in the IT program, so I was impressed. that it took me not very long. But if you're in graphic design, maybe this isn't the best format for you. It just depends on what you're trying to promote. And my last tip that I'll share that I heard on TikTok, which there are some great career counselors on TikTok that offer videos about career advice. One of them said a candidate, it was a recruiter who said a candidate emailed her the morning of their interview and reconfirmed their interview for the day, said, I look forward to seeing you today at 11 a.m. for my interview. I wanted to send you a little bit more information about them myself. And they sent a link to their portfolio. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you at noon or 11. And the recruiter was really blown away by that, by the candidate reconfirming the interview and then sharing a little bit more information about themselves that maybe wasn't a place in the online application for them to include that. And I thought that was a great tip. And actually, one of our students used that tip and she got a job. So I will end it on that note, and I'll follow up with all the things that I talked about today via email. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, please email me and I'll share my Calendly link with you and we can go over anything we discussed. And I'll be hosting a few more webinars this semester. So I hope to see you all then. But have a great Tuesday. Thank you all for participating.